Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome to today's installment of Created for More, the podcast. And today is all about how we present, how we show up in the world in our as our most magnificent selves. And I have an expert who will be talking with us about just what it takes to bring, your A game, aka executive presence, aka magnificence, aka brilliance, into every table we find ourselves. I've got the delectable Dr. Omotola Onaneye-Babajide, and she's a seasoned academic professional with a heart for entrepreneurship. Her professional, academic, and corporate expertise is in renewable energy, climate change mitigation, and environmental sustainability. We've got that in common, actually. She earned her doctorate in environmental chemistry, specializing in all things renewables. She's won many awards for her scholarly achievement. She's a philanthropist. She's generally a woman of excellence, and she's founded this. Her business is called Bright Concept, where she coaches, mentors, and trains high network individuals and professional clientele on how to build their personal and professional brands and develop executive presence. Look, you sound fantastic already. If that is all we did, it will be enough. Oh my goodness, it is so incredible to have you. Thank you so much for joining us in the studios today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
It is such a pleasure. So I've read that script, but I always like to start by asking my guests to introduce themselves. You know, beyond the scripting, what is the essence of you? Who are you? Who is Dr. Omotola?
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
No worries.
You've said it all actually, but I'll just put this in. I am just a very simple girl assigned by God who has awakened to her purpose, who knows what God wants her to do, who has, the Bible says, to whom much is given, much is expected. So she's somebody that has enjoyed a lot of grace, has been powered by grace, preserved by mercy, and is now, putting forward and making impact in the world, just to make a difference and just do what my father wants me to do. I've been blessed in so many ways, and I feel that a lot of people are perishing because the lack of knowledge, the lack of information. There's an information overload, but not many people understand or can decipher exactly what they need to do to go to the next level. So my assignment is to help a lot of people understand what they need to know per time to be able to get professional success, accelerate their careers, and just have enormous professional and personal growth.
I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. So when I was saying we have something in common, I studied process and environmental systems engineering for my master's degree at the University of Surrey here in the UK. I did that, and as once I was finishing my master's, I was just like, dust myself off, and I am absolutely gone. But obviously, you love academia because you've been in it for such a long time. So I would like to just kind of start by, how did you get into it?
Okay.
How come you've stayed in for so long? What is that
Yeah.
passion that it gives you, or what does it feel
Oh my
within
word.
you?
Okay. It's a very funny story because when people see me, they try to correlate how I look and how I act with my profession. Academics are usually very serious minded people. They're not really very fashionable and all those things, and I kind of I really don't belong to the statistics or whatever. However, I think I don't know, maybe by I really don't know how to express it, but I got into academia at a very, very young age. Very young age. As a matter of fact, I wanted to study pharmacy when I was in high school because my mother wanted me to study pharmacy.
Oh, wow.
But I couldn't get into pharmacy. I couldn't make the jam
Your
cut-off
cut-off.
point. So at the end of the day, I got admission into studying chemistry. And when I wanted to study chemistry, my mom was like, okay, maybe you will do chemistry, and then next year you will, move from chemistry and
Change, swap.
change your course. And I found out that by the time I started my 100 level, 200 level, circumstances changed, a lot of things changed. I told her, I said, Mom, it's fine, let me just finish my chemistry, I'm almost done. Let me just finish. And that was how I finished. At the time, I was doing a double major, so it was chemistry education. I was having a BSc Ed, so I had a major in chemistry and I had a major in education. I found out that I loved education. I loved it. I loved psychology. I loved educational psychology. I loved educational management, even more than my chemistry courses. And then my dad, whenever I come home with my results, my dad will say, well, there's nothing bad. You're a female child, so there's really nothing bad for you being a teacher. Maybe that's what you really want to do and all of that.
Oh, wow.
And then my dad was just like, well, you're a female child, it's fine. And so I just decided, okay, I was going to take the challenge. And I decided that even if I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to be a quality one. I'm going to be the best out of the best. I'm going to be the top out of the top if I'm going to be a teacher. And I made up my mind in second year. I decided, okay, I think I'm going to go to part of education. However, I'm going to be a professor. And so when I finished, so right from the very start, I just knew that maybe this is the part God wanted for me. So by the time I finished my undergrad, I immediately went to do my master's in industrial chemistry, and during my master's, I got a job. My first job as a NYC during my NYC was a lecturer. I was an assistant lecturer. That was my first job in my whole life, and at that time I was just 19 years old. So I was 19. So I got a job as a lecturer, and I was so tiny. I was so small. But I realized that I enjoyed it. Oh my God, I enjoyed it. I loved being in front of the class. I loved it. And so when
you could have been in the class yourself at 19.
A lot of them used to make fun of me. Yeah, they make fun of me and they would be laughing. Where's she from? Even when I was in camp, everybody was making fun of me because I was so small. I got into university when I was 15 turning 16. I was so young. So by the time I finished my master's, I got a job 3 months later as a lecturer in a college of education. And the first day I wanted to, take in my job, how I present myself for the what's it called, the orientation. They asked for my age and everything, and I wanted to add to my age because at the time I just turned 23.
Oh my God.
So somebody was like, no, people take away from their age. You want to add to your age. No, don't do that. So I left my age like that and I started teaching. The first time in class, everybody was looking at me like, who's this small lecturer? Who's this small person, But I loved it. I love being in class. I love teaching. I really do love transferring knowledge. It's just a place I found myself. However, I don't like research. I found out later when I went to do my PhD, I didn't like the lab. I didn't like it. So I decided, okay, let me do this PhD because it's going to elevate my status. It's going to help me be heard, seen, and paid. However, when I'm done, then I can use it for other things. So that's my story, basically. But I really love teaching.
I love it. I love how you found your passion. The fact that, you went in there, and a couple of key things that you said, your dad pointed you in that, signposted you, was it, in that direction. But you said, if I am going to do this, I will be the best at it. And it's such a great attitude to have. And obviously it's paid off. So take me back. It's 2020, the whole pandemic hit all of us. And we're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And you then decide to reinvent yourself and add more feathers to your hat. Talk us through your decision to pivot into entrepreneurship.
Okay, it was actually divinely orchestrated. I had always been a lecturer all my life. However, it's the norm that you do side businesses or side hustles. So I used to do side hustles. Okay, what happened at the time, before I started my job as a lecturer, in between when I finished my master's and I got the job, I didn't just want to sit down at home and be a housewife and not have income and all of that. So I decided at the time to start a juice business. So at the time, the earnings from my business was even more than my first salary, So I knew the potential that was in entrepreneurship. However, when I started teaching, I eventually now found out that I couldn't really manage both together. So in 2020, by that time I had come to South Africa. I had left Nigeria, come to South Africa to do my PhD and everything. um, I was just yearning for more, and I was like, God, what next? And 2020 made us realize that, or made us, all of us, reflective. At the time, everybody was thinking about their lives, like, what
Oh
is
my
this?
God, yes.
Oh
I
my
remember
God,
that.
everybody was reflective, like, what if I die? If I die, what is going to happen? And at the time, my brother had COVID.
Oh
A
dear.
lot of my colleagues had COVID in the office in South Africa at the time. It was very bad in South Africa. So, I was just questioning myself, okay, Omotola, what if I die today or something happened to me? Have I really fulfilled my purpose? Have I really done what God wants me to do? Have I really, just those questions? And then I found out that there was still a space for more. I've always had influence within academic space, not outside of academia. Nobody knew me outside of academia. And so one day I slept. Maybe God saw my yearning of my heart, I don't know. So one day I slept, and in my spirit, I kept hearing the word, seed to the sower, bread to the eater. I will give seed to the sower, bread to the eater. And I was like, what is this? So I woke up with that Bible verse. I didn't know where it was. I opened my phone, and then I read the full verse. And then I was like, God, what are you trying to tell me? And what opened up to me was that He gives seeds to sowers. He will give the finished products to eaters. Eaters are not are people that consume. Sowers are people that multiply. They reciprocate. They build. You are called to be a builder. You're called to reciprocate. You're called to regenerate. You're called to build people up. That's your assignment. In whatever way capacity you want to do, you have to find it. But you're not called to be a consumer. You're called to be a builder. And that just ignited a fire within me. And I was like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? How do I go about this? And then the business concept, bride concept just came up, and I started to like, okay, I'm going to do this, but in what way? And I started to kind of navigate. I'm going to help people and all of that. And that's how it grew to what it is today.
I love it. Tell us about what it is today. What do you do?
Okay, so today today I have an online business called Bride Concept. I also have a product business called Brideberry. So eventually I was able to turn my product business that I had been doing back in the day into a factory, into a big production facility where we produce a healthy drink from hibiscus saperifer and supply all restaurants, all African indigenous restaurants in the whole of Cape Town. We hope to scale up later on by the time we move to the US and all of that. In my online business, this is where I now teach people how to have executive presence. Actually, I started with helping scholars. I started with students because that was where I was comfortable in. So that's where I started. I started with them. I made an educational grant at the time, something, a body was put in my heart at the time. And then I made a call for 25 million naira for people to donate to that cause so that we can help a lot of students that couldn't pay their school fees and all of that. Because at the time before in Nigeria, I realized that a lot of students couldn't pay school fees, and I feel I had that burden for them. So that's where I started. And then we did the educational grant. A lot of people gave, and we gave 10 students 150,000 naira each. A lot of them were able to complete their studies. Most of them now join my mentoring group. They call me mom, and all of that. So from there, I now started to train the people that wanted to get better in their academics. I first of all started calling myself an academic coach. Eventually, I now got a coach myself, and then I told her what my desires were, and she said, Omotola, you have so much potential than what you're doing. Why don't you be an executive coach and help professionals become what you are? I can see you exude so much confidence. You exude so much presence. Why don't you help professionals? And most of professionals will pay you, because at the time I hired a coach because I wasn't making money from the business. I was just helping. It was more philanthropic than profitable. It was not profitable. So I wanted to deal with that issue. So she was like, no, if your audience is going to be students, you're not going to be profitable. So why don't I can see that in you. You don't see it yourself, but I see that you could be an executive coach. So she was the first person to open my eyes into that. And then I said, okay. And she said, you started a business. You started a product business. You started an online business. Why don't you help academics and professionals also start businesses? Let them see the possibility of them doing things even with their careers. And from there, your eyes will open up. And I started that. And then one day, one of my colleagues called me and said, Omotola, I noticed that your students like you. I noticed that you don't have issues with a lot of the students, because with her students don't listen in class. They, they cuss her out. You know how higher education students are, these adults. And we teach, in fact, in my class, I'm in an engineering department. So a lot of our students are much older than I am, and a lot of them, some of them are younger, some of them are older. So she realized that I have this class of, how will I put it, control. And whenever my students come to class, they respect me. I know how to set boundaries, even though they look at me with like, she's young and all of that, but I know how to just control my class. And whenever she comes to my class, she wonders how I do it, because the students listen. They listen, they do what I ask them to do. We have so much correspondence, cordiality, respect. She doesn't have that in her class. A lot of students used to complain. And in higher education, one thing that they do is that one of the requirements as a lecturer is that you get to have evaluation at the end of every semester. So your students evaluate you. You have an evaluation report. So if they fail you the evaluation report, you might be queried, or something might be, it's not really good for your professional advancement. You might not be promoted and things like that. So each time I do my evaluation reports, I'm always 99%, 100%, because the students always say, she's so nice, she's so this, and with her, she's always failing. So she came to me and said, Omotola, how do you do this? You're so small in terms of your frame, and in terms of your face, you look a little bit younger and all of that. She's 3 times bigger than I am. So I told her, I said, you know what? Her name was Karen, I think. And I told her, I said, you know what? You can't earn respect by not giving respect. You have to earn it. You have to, if you want them to respect you, you have to respect them. I can teach you how to have class control, but it's not something you can get by just shouting at the students. You have to really learn to respect them. You have to really like what you're doing. You have to really like them. How can you like them? When you like them, they like you. And when they like you, they respect you. You build trust with them. Once you build trust with them, you will see that they will listen to you. So she was like, okay, how? And that was what brought about the idea of executive presence.
Wow. Just like
and
that.
So I started to teach her what to do, how to handle them, her communication, the way she dresses, the way she, a tone in the class, the way she talks, the way she expresses herself. Okay, so you come to the class, the first thing you need to do is to know the names of your students. When you know their names one by one, know their names as much as you can, call them by their name. Hello, Grace, how are you? How was work today? Just ask them, Grace, can you answer that question? Or Grace, can you explain this concept? When you call a student by their name, it means a lot. It means that you have gone a little bit further to know that person. And that person will reciprocate by opening up to you. You can't just say, hey. If you say, hey, no. Things like that. So I started to teach her, and that's how it started. And then I started to talk about it in terms of academic professionals, because I saw that a lot of them didn't have it. And because I did both science and education. They had taught us all of this in my background, in my undergraduate, in my background. So I know human psychology, child psychology. I know how to deal with human emotional intelligence and things like that. A lot of my colleagues that were in engineering department, that were in chemistry department, they just had PhDs or MScs in chemistry, in sciences. They never had that training in education. Do you understand? So they didn't really know how to have classroom management and all of that. So that's how it started. I started to train them one by one, and then I was like, okay, I can do this. So from there, it extended to other career professionals.
I love it. So let's go back, because you've talked about what it is, but it'll be good to, bring it out of academia and put it in a different context. What is executive presence? I work in an organization, and I want to have more executive presence. What does that mean?
Okay.
What should I be doing?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So executive presence comes from the word presence. Presence means you're there. They see you. They feel you. They like you. You're memorable. They remember you. So that's basically what it entails. However, it's a soft skill and it's a trait that makes you influential, confident, and competent. Do you understand? So it makes you competent, confident, and influential. It gives you that image so that when you talk, people want to listen. When you act or when you appear, people want to look. Who's she? What is she about? How is she? And then people smile, not necessarily because of, but the way you make them feel. So executive presence is how people perceive you. Your personal brand is how you want how you present yourself is your personal brand. But executive presence is how people perceive you. And that's entirely not really up to you, but up to the things that you do. And there are three pillars. I don't know if you want me to continue.
Please go ahead.
So there are three pillars in executive presence. The first is how you look. It's extremely important. It's a very big pillar. How you look, your appearance. I'm going to be talking about into details as we go on. The second one is how you talk, your communication skills. How you talk, how do you present yourself, how do you speak to people, do you have empathy, do you speak with them, are you clear, are you concise, are you accurate, are you succinct in what you say, how you say what you say, do you have a commanding tone in a soft feel? I can say Tambra, how are you? And I can also say, Tambra, how are you? There are two different ways of saying that. So it's a skill it's a soft skill that you have to learn. These things are not taught to us in school. However, they can be learned. So I do that and teach people. The third one is I've talked about communication, how you look. The third one is your gravitas, how you act.
Okay now. Okay.
How you act. So how you act, how do you behave? And this has a lot to do with emotional intelligence. How do you behave? Do you just act in a non-aggressive way? How do you conduct yourself? The way you conduct yourself, the way you act, shows people how, or tells people how they should respect you. So if you're a professional in your demeanor and you exude confidence, you exude power, people will respect you. So those are the three pillars of executive presence. It just makes you very confident, very competent, and very influential. So I'd like to add that a lot of people have a lot of intellectual prowess. So they know what they're talking about. They're very cerebral, yeah, but they don't have that soft skill of how to deliver their intellectualism. So they come up as annoying, irritating, and irking. People irk at them when they talk because they perceive them as somebody that is doing too no. You understand? Or somebody that is just forcing, being arrogant. You understand? You can be very cerebral and be so soft-spoken and be so, how will I put it? You could be so accepting of other people that people really want to now have discussions with you rather than having arguments with you. So for example, let me give you an example. So for example, if you come to class and I just want to use the class as an example. I'm going to also use an executive room as an example. So for example, if you come to class, some academics or some academic professionals have a school of thought that when you come to class, you have to show your students or your audience that you know everything, or that you are in control and that you are the superpower in front of everybody. So if you ask a question, or if they ask a question, you have to prove to them that you know the answer. So for example, if a student comes to class and I say, I'm teaching a concept of, maybe I'm talking about, I don't want to use a scientific so that it can cut across board. Maybe I'm talking about politics, and somebody says, okay, sir, I have this opinion that this is, what do you think about this? And I'm just like, okay, because she has asked me a question, I must give her an answer, and she must accept it whether it's wrong or not. And meanwhile, I don't even know the answer. You understand? So some people have a school of thought that even if I don't know the answer, as a professor, I should give the answer. However, if you have executive presence, the way to go is, hi darling, I don't know the answer. Can anybody else here share their views on this topic or on this question? It shows a little bit of vulnerability. And people
Yeah.
love people that are vulnerable. Your vulnerability makes you accepted. It makes you authentic. It makes you human.
Mm.
Do you understand? So a lot of
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of professionals don't know this side that makes them likable. When you're likable, I'll ask you a question now. Do you remember who was your best teacher when you were in university?
In university,
Your best lecturer?
Mr. Johnson. So we had a lecturer. Yeah, he was nice.
You see, you remember the person that was nice to you.
Mm.
You remember, people never forget. That means he had presence. That
Mm.
means he was nice to you. He has empathy.
Mm.
You like people, and when students like their teachers, the students will pass the courses the teacher teaches them. Also in the executive boardroom, you can come to bosses that are nice. People like bosses that are nice. They trust bosses that are nice.
Mhm.
They trust people that are nice to them, that accept them, that are accepting, that are empathetic. So what am I saying in essence? Executive presence just has to do with all of the soft skills that make you competent, confident, and influential. And when people tend to like you, trust you, they want to do business with you. And you have significant opportunities. You have access to opportunities because when people like you, they'll be like, oh, that lady, oh my God, I want her to do this for me. I want her to do this for me. I get a lot of recommendations a lot of times because of the way I carry myself, because of the way I also carry other people and respect people in my space. So a lot of professionals don't know this. Even though you might be a first class whatever or know everything, if you don't have this aspect of character development or
Then
soft
it's
skills,
it's
you
it's
won't
an
you
issue.
won't go you
Yeah.
won't go far. You won't go far. You won't go
Is
far.
it like charisma?
Charisma is part of it.
Is part of it, yeah.
Yes, charisma is part of it.
So is
Charisma.
this cocktail of power, how you present, how charismatic you are, openness, vulnerability, and authenticity, and all of that. It's really interesting. If there was one pillar that was that, if you had to prioritize just one pillar in all three that you spoke about, which one would you say is the most weighty or will have the most impact?
It's difficult to say because three of them are interwebbed. But if I were to say the most, because if you have gravitas and you don't have good communication skills,
It doesn't work. Yeah.
imagine I come here and I'm just stuttering or I'm not coherent. How would you feel? You feel frustrated.
Or maybe likability, because if you're likable and you're able to empathize with people, people will like you even without anything else.
Yeah.
And
So I think if I were to choose, maybe gravitas will be the most important one. But you know what? Even how you look also draws people in. When you're pretty, it draws people in. When you dress well, when you look nice, it draws people in. But gravitas would definitely be that's how you act, the way you behave, the way you conduct yourself. That would definitely be maybe the major pillar.
So how do you then go about, because it's soft skills are harder to teach, aren't they? Would you say? How
They're
do
not
you
hard
go
to
about?
They're not hard
They're
to
not?
teach.
Mm.
They're not hard
Because
to
people
teach.
people feel like sometimes these softer skills
I think
are more
what you wanted
how
to
I
say
was
was that
born.
they had to learn. Not
Yes,
not hard
yes,
not
yes,
hard to
yes,
teach,
yes.
hard to learn because
Hard to
some
learn.
people don't even know that they don't have those soft skills. They don't even know. Some people don't even realize it. It's when they're not getting results that they now say, what is wrong? What is wrong? When you get results make you know that, okay, I'm doing something correctly, I'm doing something right. But when you don't get results, then you begin to wonder. And in school, they teach us concepts, they teach us pass your exams, do your grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, do level 1, level 2, pass everything, have first class. They don't teach us all the soft skills. And in the workplace, soft skills is the most important.
It's the most important thing.
So let me give you an example. Let me give you something that happened to me today. So I have a 20-year-old boy. He wants to
You
do.
look 20 yourself.
I get that all the time. I started very young. I started very, very young. Okay, so he wants to do an internship. So we were looking for a place for him to do an internship. And he was like, "Mom, how are we going to do?" I said, "Oh, don't worry, let's just see." So each time we want to go out, I'll tell him, dress well, okay, dress well, and I'll also dress well. And then so we were just going around. We went to a place I thought, and then we didn't get anybody there, so we were just driving around and we found a place. And then when we got there, it was just like, okay, let's just check this place. Maybe it's a digital agency. And then we knocked on the door, we went inside, and the place was looking so beautiful on the inside. Oh my god. And my son was like, "Mommy, I love this place. This is really where I would love to work." And I was like, "You just be." So eventually we met the owner. He's a middle-aged white man. And he was like, "How can I help you?" And I was like, "Hello, sir." You know, when you talk to a white person, you have some nuances. And so, "Hello, sir, how are you? I'm Dr. Omotola, and this is my son, and this, that." And I started to say the story, you know. And he was like, "Okay, so he wants to do an internship. How many months?" He said, and then he said, "What's your background?" He asked us questions. And at the end of it, was like, "Okay, you can come and start tomorrow. It's fine."
Oh, wow.
Just like
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Like, it was like, "When do you want to start?" It was like, in any time. Immediately, say, "You can come and start tomorrow. Do you have a laptop?" I said, "Yes." So eventually he asked us some questions and all of that. Then we left, and when we got into the car, my son was like, "Mom, how did you do that? How did you just get that?" And I noticed that you have this thing that whenever you want something, opportunities just come just because of the way. And I told him, I said, number one is the grace of God. Number two is also how to make people feel important. When you're having a discussion, especially when you want something, there's a way you talk to that person to make that person feel like a messiah. You understand? In a subtle way. So when you make him feel important, you make him feel reverenced. He will listen to you. And when he listens to you, and you can put your points across succinctly, accurately, you know, in a way that you don't talk too much, you don't talk too small, you don't talk too long, you know, it will always work. See, was like, "Mom, you have to teach me this thing."
I'll say something that maybe might simplify that a little bit, because I've had similar conversations with my husband. I say to him, like, every time we go somewhere, if there is a freebie, or if you know, you will find someone just wanting to give him something, or if we are stuck, maybe our baggage is a little bit overweight at the airport, I will always say, "You go, go, go," because he will go and just find a way. They'll say, "Oh, all of you go," and they'll all be smiling and all. And I said to him one day, I was like, "You know what? Can you succinctly articulate what is it that you do?" Because there's some things that are harder to communicate,
To express, yes.
to express. And then he said to me, he said, "Whenever I trying to, I go into a situation like that, and I want something, in a way, quote unquote, the way a charm, it says, I make them feel important, and I make myself feel vulnerable." It says,
And that's it.
It
That's
works
exactly
all
it.
the time.
That is
It's
it.
so simple. He says,
That
you
is
go
it.
in, you give a compliment. "How are you doing? Oh, you look like," he said, and that day he was speaking to someone at the check-in desk, and he walked up to her and he says, "Oh, hi there. You look like the only one who really, really knows what they're doing here." And she
Exactly.
smiled.
That's
And then he says,
That is
"Oh,
it.
will you help me do this?" And she's like, "Of course, don't worry for your bags."
That is a trick. Make them feel important. Make them feel loved. Make them feel, good. You would always get what you want. You would always get what you want. One day my daughter told me, "You're not scared of being vulnerable. You're not just scared. You're not scared of being vulnerable." I'm like, "Yeah, that's the way you get what you want. You can't be arrogant and feel that you know it all or have it all and expect people will help you. No. People help people who can help themselves. So if you don't show a little bit of vulnerability, you won't get them. You won't get
You
it.
won't get them. Oh, I love that. I love that we've been able to just kind of break it on this podcast, because I want people to really, really understand it. And as you say, these are soft skills, but they are people, you can learn them. They're learnable. And as you break them down in the pillars, and I know you have a book on this,
Yeah,
and your book is called How to Think, Talk, and Act Like an Executive. And I suppose it's based on these three pillars, but just tell us a little
exactly.
bit more about the book.
Okay, so the book is just about my story, you know, and I've said a little bit of my story
Mm-hmm.
and how I came into this, and it breaks down the three pillars of executive presence, the gravitas, and all of that, and you know, it just shows a little bit of attributes people can inculcate to be able to really be somebody that they can be respected, and you know, and when people respect you, when people like you, when they
Mm-hmm.
trust you,
Mm-hmm.
then my goal with the book was that if you could do all those three things, then you could go on to do businesses, you know, and then get access to opportunities that will make you leverage and you know create wealth. You can't
Mm-hmm.
create wealth. Just like you now, you came to me and you know sent me a DM and said, "Omotola, like it's because you saw something drew you
Mm-hmm.
to me."
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it was, it must have been either maybe you saw one of my lives, or maybe you saw
Mm-hmm.
one of my books.
Yeah.
It's because I had a very catchy, maybe personal brand or professional brand that's catchy. So you can be a wealthy person. I'm not saying rich now, but wealthy. You can't really be a wealthy person when you don't have that people skills, you know. And executive presence is about people skills. So for me, I was writing the book on the perspective that just being cerebral is not enough. Just being brilliant is not enough. If you
Mm-hmm.
really want to live in abundance, if you really want to be able to trade your brilliance for profit, or to trade your passion for profit, people have to like you. How do they like you? The way to like you, or the way to trust you, or the way to want to do business with you, is for them to feel comfortable in your presence. And the way to do that is by having, apart from your personal brand, which is one of the elements, is also building executive presence, you know, and
I
just
love
like
it.
that.
I love
Yeah.
it. You made a distinction between rich and wealthy. Can you
Yes.
elaborate?
Oh my, I love that. I love that. I don't know if you're Yoruba, but I'll speak my native language.
Okay, go ahead.
My native
I'm not,
language
but
is okay, but
as long as you translate.
I will translate. So my native language is Yoruba, and it's a very popular language in Nigeria. And
Mm-hmm.
so Yorubas call riches owo or ola,
Mm-hmm.
and wealth they call it oro. You
Mm.
understand? So there's a difference, even from the Yoruba language, there's a difference between rich and wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Wealth is encompassing. Wealth
Mm.
is encompassing. Uh, Even in the Bible says a rich man. Sometimes it will say a wealthy man. And wealth is when you have an, a an abundance of peace, an abundance of power, influence. Not necessarily money is just a um, an element.
It's just an element. I've heard someone actually define it as money is the lowest form of wealth.
Money is the lowest form of wealth. Yeah, that
Of
is it.
wealth.
So
It
you
is.
can money is just an element. It's a tool. It's a tool. One of the tools that you can use. It's an errand thing. But wealth is, for example, wealth is when you have influence, when you have peace, when you have power, when your word speaks better even than your money. There's some people that have money, but they can't have they don't have influence, they don't have power.
Mm-hmm.
So I can call one of my friends and say, please, I need you to do this for me, because I have a relationship with that person. I might have that money, rich, but I might not be able to, to use it for me to get my achieved aim or whatever. So what I'm saying in essence is that wealth encompasses a lot of things. Peace, health. Your health is also a measure of your wealth. Um, Influence, relationships, occurrences that you use. Wealth, riches is just money, just having
Mm.
money, just having currency, pounds, whatever, the paper. but the wealth encompasses everything. So a wealthy person has so much that it can turn into riches and more. I hope I was able
No, you
to
nailed
explain
it.
it, to
You
explain
nailed
that
it.
as much as I. So I always tell everybody around me that I want to really be wealthy. Well, wealth does not determine what is not determined by what you have in your bank account. It's not determined by
Mm-hmm.
what you have in your pocket. It's not
Mm-hmm.
determined by It's a part. What your wealth is, you you yourself is
Mm-hmm.
your wealth.
You
You can create
yourself.
money anytime. You can create money. That's why
Mm.
Bible God created us, and we are creators. We are gods.
We are
You can
creators.
create money.
Mm.
You can create money. But if you don't have wealth, yeah, wealth is much more. Is much more, and that's what we should all desire, to have the wealth of God. Have the
Mm.
wealth of God. Yeah.
I love that. So thank you so much for that. Just as we close, so I hear you say executive presence is what you exude, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's how you're perceived,
Yeah.
and then your personal brand is what you curate,
Yes. What you personally
right?
curate. Yeah.
What you personally curate. What I wanted you to speak really are those subtle distinctions, aside that, between curating a personal brand and how are you and then building executive presence, and are you supposed to, how are you meant to be doing them, if in tandem? Just kind of explain it a little bit. Should everyone be building a personal brand as they are also developing their soft skills, and like how does it all work?
Okay. Thank you very much. So one of the things to know is that you cannot build executive presence if you don't have a personal brand.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Elaborate, please.
You cannot build an executive presence, or you cannot be perceived as something if you don't have a brand. So personal brand is the first thing to do. So you yourself have that assignment to want to curate an imagery for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now the way it's accepted or the way it's perceived is now up to other people. But you have to have a personal brand. In other words, how do you want to be perceived?
Mm.
You understand? For example, for me, I want to be perceived. For some people, they want to be perceived as powerful. They want to be
Mm-hmm.
perceived as graceful, elegant,
Mm-hmm.
classy.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, people look at them and see them as arrogant, or too full of themselves, or too confident, or too or manipulative. Do you understand? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you might curate a personal presence that is not accepted in the way that you feel has been accepted, or you feel that should be accepted. And this is where you now have to begin to work on your executive presence so that
Mm-hmm.
you can correct those things. So there was a time I did a live, IG live, and I was asking my audience. So when you hear Dr. Motola, what do you see? What do you feel? How do you what do you perceive about me? How do you see me? And some people were saying, okay, you look so powerful, but you look very serious. You look like somebody that doesn't play, that so serious minded, so full of you just come across as somebody that is very intentional and very don't joke with me, don't play with me, that kind of a thing. And I was like, oh, and meanwhile, my character is, I'm very, very playful.
Mm.
However, I intentionally just don't show my playful side because I want to be taken seriously.
Mm.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So that was my aim. I want to be taken seriously. I don't want to be, and maybe it's coming from the place where when people see pretty faces, they tend to doubt your intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
or they then tend to second guess your intelligence, like, okay, is she really as brilliant as
Mm-hmm.
she. And because of that, I've always like, no. So later I had to work on myself, and and let everybody, whatever anybody wants to say, let them say. I know what I am and all
Mm-hmm.
of that. So what I'm saying in essence is that it's interwoven. You cannot have executive presence. People cannot even perceive you as anything if you don't even have a personal brand. Your personal
Mm-hmm.
brand shows what you want them to see. Your personal brand shows who you are, or what you want them to know you about. So I want them to know me as an executive academic. I tell people about my journey. I tell people about my career. I could also come and say I'm a fashion influencer. I could come here and say I'm a mother. I could come here and say I'm a whatever. So, but how people perceive me is 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 is, is much more than what I will now project. However, if I now want to build my executive presence and make people perceive me correctly, I need to have those pillars. I need to be able to say, okay, you think I'm serious? Okay, now because I have done a little bit of evaluation, then I can now
I
correct
can now
some
make
things,
some changes.
add some adjustments.
Some people who don't have accolades upon accolades, or is executive presence for, and I feel I know the answer. I know the answer rather, but I want you to just elaborate. Perhaps someone's listening who is a housewife, or who feels, you know what, I don't know, I work, I do a menial job. Do I need executive presence? Is it just for executives?
That's a very, very good question. Executive presence is just for people that want more out of life. This podcast is about created for more.
Yeah.
So executive presence is about people that really want the best. They want to maximize their potential. And like I told you, it's all of these things is coming from a place where God wants us to be the best at what He has built us to be. So executive presence, you might be a cleaner, whatever level of life you are. If you want more, if you feel you are created for more, and for you to be able to access significant, the word here is significant opportunities, then you have to do the work. You have to be perceived as somebody that can give value. Do you understand? So if you don't have that thing, you can't access significant opportunities. You can't access into the realms of next levels. But if you are okay, even a bank manager might not have executive presence, but he's okay in the way that he is, that's okay. But people that are created for more, that want more out of life, that want to maximize their potential and break ceilings, would really work hard to, to have this. Yeah.
I love it. You delivered. Thank you very much. I want you to give us, as we close, a final quote, a quote that means, something, meaningful to you that you'd like to share with us as we finish.
So for me, like I used to say, that I'm passionate about people's professional growth, professional success, personal growth, and academic excellence. I'm passionate and I'm committed to people growing. And for me, what I will say is that if you want to be the best at what is possible, you have to be committed to personal growth. You have to be committed to personal development. Personal development is the way to get to the peak, to get to the top. I think that's what I would just leave people with. Personal development is a game changer. It's a game changer. Nobody was born with everything. We all learn, and until you decide to really grow and put in the work in your personal self, even if you lose everything, you will make it back. You'll make it back. You'll make it back, and you'll be a person to be reckoned with. And that's for people that desire that. Some people don't desire it, but if you desire to be, you realize that you're created for more, for the blessings that God has in abundance for you. Just develop yourself. Be committed to your personal development.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It's been such a great episode. Thank you.